The philosopher Ken Wilber, he told me that the map is not the terrain. I thought that was a very simple way of saying what my adventures into music and religion and the healing arts had already taught me. Scales and arpeggios are not music, just like a map is not the terrain, a map is not the land. Scales and arpeggios are not music, but these measured intervals that we call scales and arpeggios may be practiced fundamentally along the path of our own musical realization. The map is not the terrain. The scales, the arpeggios, they're not the music, but if you study them and practice them, you may be able to engage with the terrain, with the music. Devotion to a sacred text and/or sacred practice is not the same as the sacred experience, the divine realization. The map is not the terrain. The scales and the arpeggios are not the music. And the sacred text is not separate from the divine experience. The scales and arpeggios are not separate from the music. Every religious effort may serve in the awakening of self, but religion, or even shamanic practice, is not the evidence of awakening or realization of self. The map is not the terrain. Here's what I learned in the healing arts. A binary understanding of the human body as organic machine which must respond to if-then problem solving, that's not a full understanding of the human experience, and it's not a full understanding of the human body. The map is not the terrain. Mind and body are not separate, and the physical body is a perfectly wonderful place to begin a healing practice. It is a perfect place to exhaust our rational mind as we come to the end of our ability to control the outcome through logical connections. The map is not the terrain. Did you know that musicians in the East compose in semitones? They tune into the notes between our Western notes. It's a great discipline and collective learning that the Western mind is not quite tuned into. It may be hard to appreciate if you've never discovered how incredibly difficult it can be to keep a guitar in tune sometimes. It makes sense to me to imagine that I chose to be born into this world. We think we know things here, but we don't. We are born into families who pretend to know things. Pretense. We teach our children to trust in the illusion of these systems created by unconscious storytelling creatures. I was born into this world of lies. I was born into this world where we lie to our children as our parents lied to us. We are forced to play along. We are told that good boys and good girls don't name the lies. We are born into families that have long isolated themselves from true substance. Some of us are born into crushing poverty. Some of us are born into equally crushing abundance, and abundance procured through genocide and slavery. I was a curious child, unaware of the suffering into which I was born. At a very young age, I longed for wisdom. I longed for the wisdom, and I sought it in my elders. At 7 years old, I was asking questions, or rather, I was making depth inquiries. Of course, my language was limited by my age, experience, and lack of education, and I had no idea then who it was that I was asking. I'm now approaching 50 years of age. After many years of research, I understand now more clearly the degree to which we are suffering, all of us. I was gifted with a somewhat frail physical nature and a hypersensitive emotional experience. It's been very difficult, not just for me, but oftentimes for those around me. I was born into an emotional experience that may far exceed the normal, this according to the mental health professionals that I've worked with. I now suffer from migraine headaches on an almost daily basis. These migraines are accompanied by a severe sense of hopelessness, rejection, abandonment. Torment is the word that I choose to describe my migraine experience. I feel tormented. I was born to a father whose personal suffering consistently resulted in the shaming and belittling of his wife and 2 children. I was born to a mother who made herself a victim of her husband's suffering. My brother killed himself 3 years ago. He cut a valley in his forearm, stabbed himself in the neck, and secured a plastic bag over his head by pulling a belt tight around his neck. Maybe you understand now why I choose the word torment. When my physical ailments prevented me from participating in the paid wage system, I was told by people who love me that I was shameful and that if I could not produce the money, that I should get the fuck on down the road. Those were the exact words that were used in one instance. Therefore, it is my job now to try to help other people who might be suffering like I do, to wake up to their own value, their own worth. If you are being shamed because you're unable to participate in the slave paid wage system, you don't have to shame yourself. There are many of us now who have exhausted ourselves in the system, and we have been abandoned in many instances, kicked to the street, kicked to the curb, in a very real sense. We are told that we are disabled. We are told that we should behave as if we are disabled. I don't think that's a full expression. I think that there are many of us who are incapable of participating in the paid wage system that have a lot to offer. And these videos that I'm making right now and have been making for quite some time are in part getting to this very point. The work is broad. The work is deep. Strengthening a tribe member deepens a tribe. Depth tribes feed the world. Labor and the expression of worth. We are aligning our efforts with what we know to have the greatest value. Together, we are discovering our common work, our common stories, our common love. L&TEOW. Labor and the expression of worth. Travel and Trav's Travel and String Camp is sharing and teaching music in your community, facilitating catharsis with you.